Well, good day, Underdog Leadership Podcast listeners. This is Jenny Mitchell here back with another amazing guest to bring you a little bit about life, a little bit about work, a little bit about family, and a lot about unusual career paths today. So with me in a minute, I'm going to introduce you to Mary Cote, who is the Vice President of Product at iWave. And just a little bit of context for iWave, for those of you that may not know this company, a proud Canadian-based company out of the East Coast, out of PEI, but who has had incredible growth recently, has had the investment of some venture capitalists, and has really changed the conversation about prospect research and prospect research tools in the charitable sector and in the foundation sector over the past few years. And we're going to talk more about iWave, but for right now, I'd like to say welcome, Mary, to the podcast.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me. It's very exciting.
Oh, wonderful. And so quick side note, it was funny. Mary was saying that before the podcast, her team was teasing her because they said you have no filter, apparently, Mary. Is that true?
I don't. I kind of say it like it is all the time.
I love that. Now, with a title like VP of Product, you would think, Mary, you had maybe some, computer science background. Like, what was your first degree in? I'm curious.
Interestingly enough, nothing to do with IT, computers, or product. I am an accountant by trade. I did not do the whole, CPA or CA designation after university because I quickly realized it was not for me. But I was a lover of numbers. I was a lover of logic, which I find numbers bring logic. And we're talking over 20 years ago, but I thought, I don't want to be in the stock market, so I wasn't going to do a finance degree. My alternative was going to be being an accountant. And quite frankly, I really enjoyed my degree. I really enjoyed the 4 years of studying. I thought I was doing something that suited me until I actually started looking for jobs and realized that I probably don't want to be an accountant. I did not want to do this, regular monthly reporting and stuff. And I was like, how am I going to use my love of math in a way that I'm actually going to love my job? And it is actually not me that found that path for myself.
It's interesting.
It is. I actually interviewed for accounting jobs, and this is just a few months prior to graduating. And I met the wonderful Irving family as part of a career fair, and they are big believers in this predictive index, which is the personality assessment. And I have done many interviews with them, and then it's at the point where they're interested in having me on their team, but they're trying to position where I'm going to be. And they said to me, "You're not an accountant." And I was like, "What do you mean you're not an accountant?" And I was like, "I've been doing 4 years of school here in that." But yeah, they said, "No, based on this PI, you do not like routine. You like multitasking. You like to juggle more things at once. You want to do things faster. You want a collaborative setting and all of that good stuff." And they said, "We are willing to take you on our team, but we're not putting you in the accounting department. We're going to put you in the supply chain department, and we're going to start you up in purchasing." And at that point, I was like, let's do it. As long as you tell me that I'm going to do some level of financial analysis and I'm going to run numbers. I learned my love of spreadsheets from the very start of my career in my work terms and stuff. I said, as long as I'm doing things like this, then I'm in. So yeah, my employer pretty much told me I was not an accountant. I had faith in what they were saying to me. And in hindsight, they were 100% accurate, to the point that I now use this particular personality tool everywhere I go with all my teams, because I am a strong believer that it helps understanding team members, and understanding yourself and your work style. So yeah, I'm sure we'll get more into that. But yeah, my background is accounting. I first landed in supply chain management in the food manufacturing world. And that took me across the US, several trips and conferences. And it was always fun to say that I worked in the French fry industry. We always
Yes.
had a lot of people saying, you know, supply chain, every retailer, everyone has supply chain at some level, but French fry always made it for fun conversation. I still to this day have many useless facts about French fries still in my head.
Oh, that's hilarious.
But yeah, I did that and I loved it. I went from purchasing to logistics to freight analysis to managing the entire supply chains with inventory and sales force.
So for those of us, I'm interrupting, for those of us on the call that like supply chain means very little except the food from my plate to my mouth, supply chain. Like, can you explain to me what a supply chain management involves? So is that like right from the ground, the potato in the ground?
Yeah, the expression has always been from field to fork for us. But basically it kind of is separated into in the company I was with. So there's obviously the potato in the ground that gets to the plant. I did not really get involved in that part. I was getting involved from the moment we would schedule to make certain French fries, to put it in a particular box, to storing it in a particular warehouse, to getting it to the client. So that whole part of the supply chain, of getting it packed, to getting it to the restaurants that needed it, I pretty much oversaw the automation of that. So there was a computer system. So here's the first hint of me going from spreadsheets and accounting to computers, is there was this overarching system that was fully automated that had been implemented at the company, and it wasn't really being utilized. And they asked me to kind of try to figure out, why is this system there working but no one's really using it? And that's one thing that led me into kind of the IT world, not so much at that point development per se, but really kind of embracing process automation and computers and working on project teams and working a little bit with developers. But at the time, this was more embracing. Mary was good at understanding what could be automated and what couldn't, and then kind of get it from A to B and making sure people were using it.
So I hear the logic for sure. I also want to just impress upon the fact that, you know, these are not computers from 2022. These are way back when computers. So that would be a whole other thing. And I'm imagining this shadow Mary that's walking around, who didn't get chosen by the Irving company, who's stuck somewhere in accounting, somewhere in some company, miserable, if I may, a shadow of herself, because she didn't have this opportunity to really align who she was with her job. Do you ever think about that?
I mean, it was a turning point in my career to actually embrace what they were telling me. I could have said, I don't know what you're saying when you said you're not an accountant, and I could have went on and looked for that. Now, I'll be honest with you, I didn't hesitate very long. I'm that is also part of my personality. I'm kind of like, sure, let's do this, let's go for it. The predictive index would say I don't have a very high D. I'm comfortable making decision based on my gut instinct, and I don't always need data to make a decision.
That must drive your team nuts.
Right. So I'm not full gut. I'm actually very much in the middle. But at that time, I didn't hesitate. I was excited. I liked the idea of supply chain management in the food industry. I liked the opportunity. I liked the employer. So I didn't hesitate very long. But yeah, it's crazy where I would have been had I not even had that career fair that I met. And then they said, come have, I think what ended up being 11 interviews in the end with them. It was the graduate program. So they have a very extensive interview process. I even interviewed directly with Mr. Irving at the end, and to just kind of get the final thumbs up. It was a fantastic program. And I really felt like, you know, they had my career in hand, and I was not just an extra body. And I was there. I was there for close to 8 years. And really, in the end, I loved what I did, but I wanted to see more. and I was traveling a lot, believe it or not. I was still late 20s. But I thought, like, let's try to see something a little different. And then that's when my love of automating processes brought me to IT and development. So there was a local firm in Charlottetown where I was from, which meant very little commute compared to what I was doing at the time, that had an Oracle practice. And I was like, you know what? I can automate processes. I love supply chain and all that. And then they had a portion of their business that did that. So that's how I started putting one foot into the IT. I wasn't so much in charge of products. I wasn't so much managing developers. I was just, in an IT firm doing what I felt was the same as I was doing with the Irving family before. And then one day there was this project that was right up my alley, and I was very excited. It was all things that I was very comfortable at, and it was freight automation, and I was like, I'm all over this. And it was a very successful project for the company. Cool. It was and I think that was a turning point.
I was just going to say, so if you're listening to the Underdog Leadership Podcast, Mary, you're not our typical guest, just to put it out there, right? Like, I've heard supply chain management, freight automation, like, these are not words that roll off my tongue, right? So, but what do you think, what I do hear though is a person who is ready to try things, not to box themselves in, not to pigeon themselves. What do you think about that freight automation project? What was it, your secret sauce? What brought it to success? What did you contribute?
I had a clear understanding of the goal, and I had luckily also a keen developer on my team that also wanted to do the same and prove. And I remember we were a very small team. We had a very cool client that wanted this. And I said to him, Adam, I think this is our time to shine. Like I said, I'm happy to have you with me on this, and I think we're going to do well. So I guess I had seen at the time that if we succeed here, this is going to mean good things for me professionally and for you professionally. Yeah. I kind of seized it, and I saw it, and I was like, let's do this. And we did. It was a very, very successful turnaround quickly. It was it was a very successful project. So I think that kind of changed how I was perceived at work. And then it was like, okay, so let's give something else a little bit more challenging and see what happened. And there was always, whenever there was something that was a change, there's always a moment that I remember I would go home and go to my husband. And it's like, okay, is this crazy? Like, I'm about to try this, but is this the one time it's not going to work? And I mean, I'm a little bit older now, but in hindsight, like it always worked. There was always something that I would be like, okay, they're making me do this. This is very different than I should be doing, but let's give it a shot. And it has worked out for me. So
there's that is a theme. I'm just going to pick up on that theme. When I think of the people we've interviewed on the podcast, when I think of the women I've met, the women I work with professionally, they are the kind that say, don't know anything about that. Let's find out about it, rather than, I don't know anything about that. Let's run away from it. You are an epitome of that. And so it strikes me too that it's like, what's the worst that can happen? It's a little bit of that stoicism too, right, Mary?
Yeah. I mean, I could have face planted. I mean, the world of IT and professional services, there's some horror stories out there. So what's the worst that can happen? It could have been a very stressful time. But truly, they're also learning. I mean, not every project that I ever participated in or managed were success stories. So they're learning opportunities. But I thrive on, let's give this a shot. Let's try this. And that's really how my career changed. So I went and I was doing this in a supply chain practice. There was an opportunity in another part of the company that was not at all. So I was kind of reusing what I was successful at, but in another group, and they said, do you want to try this? I was like, sure, let me try this. So I did this for a little bit. Then I kind of became known as the person that was going to fix things that were not finishing.
Now that's a blessing and a curse, right?
It is, because I know that I kind of had the label that, if I'm going there, then it's going to be hard because he's going to want to finish it, and it's going to, so I didn't always have probably the, the good assignment and make everyone, woohoo, this Mary's coming into this project. It never really bothered me. I'd say I always saw it as an opportunity. I really thrive on the fact that I complete something and it's done and it's checked. It's all, my predictive index would tell you that's where I thrive. And I just found a career that I get to check those boxes and take the next challenge over and over and over. And that's what really, it says in my assessment, that's what makes her going, is the ability to say, check, this is complex, let's figure out the next one, check.
So I'm going to fast forward you to iWave, which you've only been there 4 years. But before I get into the iWave story, what do you think your team would say about you today?
That I'm a bit of a driver, but I know how to have fun. That I have no filter. They know when my kids are in the room.
Okay.
I speak differently if my 12 and my 10-year-old can hear mommy talk than if they're not in the room. But I will say I've had a lot of people say I'm one of the best managers they ever had, which, I mean, 5 years ago, 6 years ago, I would have been, oh, thank you. But now, today, I can say what has happened at iWave in the last 4 years is a lot. It was very challenging, and it was a lot of fun. And I am truly proud of the team that we built. And I do feel like, this team works together, and we get along, and we laugh, and we can be inappropriate at times. But, it works. We just found a group with 25 people that jives together, very smart, talented people. We talk about our weaknesses just as much as we talk about our strengths all the time. I'll make fun of myself 100%. But I think that's what makes that team so good, is there's no trust issues. There's no weak link on the side that, oh, look, so-and-so, can you pick this up? Because I know this person's not doing their part. We're a good team. So I think today that I can confidently say that people would say that I've built a good team that gets along and gets stuff done.
Well, and you've done so much. I mean, we're going to talk a minute about iWave and iWave as a company and product developments. One of those really, well, I'll let you describe it, but my perception of product development, or product, I should say, is you're kind of the butt of everybody's jokes. In other words, sales has already sold the thing that you haven't actually built yet, right? Mm-hmm. Finance is looking for the money for the thing they've already sold that you haven't actually built yet. And whenever there's a problem, they all blame product. I'm simplifying a little bit, but I'm going to imagine it's a pretty heavy load to bear. So tell us a little bit about iWave, where you walked in 4 years ago and where you are now. And I want to hear about it's a lot. I want to hear it all.
Yeah, well, I'm very frank. When I walked in, we had an unstable product. We had performance issues. And we wanted to go after the market and bring some new features. And the product team is like, we can't do this. We're stuck together with popsicle sticks and gum here. We're not in a good place. And the team was a little burnt out from having to do certain things on certain schedules and things like that. So I walked in with a fragile team and a fragile product and a company that wanted to take over the world, which we ended up doing. But
because that's what you guys do.
Yeah. But so it was hard coming in, because it was like, okay, the team needs to be shaken up. The org chart needs to be shaken up, how we work. Our processes had to change. And we got this product that needs a lot of money put into it before we can do all these big things. So I took a little convincing at first that we
I
needed
bet.
as a company to pause. Because like you said, the sales team said, we don't have this, we don't have this, we don't have this, we don't have this. And I was like, I can't give you any of this until I rebuild myself, my team, and the product. But support of the exec team, the CEO, to say, look, that's what the product team needs to do, is focus on themselves for a year.
Yep.
Give us a brand new iWave. And then after that, Mary, you better get that innovation engine going. So it was hard. It was a lot of work. We couldn't push the dates anymore at the end. So there was long hours. There was a lot of weekends at the end. And but it was pretty amazing what we were able to accomplish in that period of time. Crazy enough to think that we actually had this launch party with the balloons and the champagne and the tears and the clock, March 11th, 2020. And then we shut her down 2 days later and I'll go home. Like, the timing was kind of...
Is that for real?
That's for real. March 11th, 2020, 12 o'clock. The clock was going down in the office. We were cheering. There was hugs. There was tears. It's like, we did it. And then we shut the office that Friday.
Wow.
Crazy times. But it worked out for the best for us, because then the team was able to, let's go home. Let's regroup. And then after that, it was like, okay, you said when you had a new product, now it's time to innovate. So not a huge break. But I knew, I said to the team, I said, guys, if we do this like 3-4 months in a row, the pedal is like, the pressure on us is going to come down, because they're going to say, okay, they said they were going to do that. Yeah. Let's do that. Then there was also the excitement now of the front line saying, okay, now I can ask for something and get it. So then there was a lot of asks, and we prioritized and we did it. And I'll say, to the point that now we're hearing like, you guys are doing too much. Slow down.
Really?
Yeah. And I was like, I love hearing that. I'm not slowing down just yet, but it's like we've said this story. Sorry, my screen did I lose you? Are you there, Jenny?
We lost her. She's going to come back, though.
Are you there? I can't see you. I'm going to refresh.
Oh, this is embarrassing. She's coming back.
Sorry.
No worries. No worries.
I don't know. I could see me. I couldn't see.
I'm not sure. I think the internet might have. Anyway, it doesn't matter, because we're recording, so it's totally fine. But I'm just loving your energy. So let me just take a pause here and say, the energy that you have the pride you have when you talk about that time is pretty incredible, Mary.
Yeah. And it's true. It's truly, like, I'm very proud of what we accomplished. When I made this move to come to iWave, it was not an easy decision. It was another one of those, what am I doing? This is a crazy idea. Okay. I love the people I was working with, but then I was seeing this company doing some pretty amazing thing. And I was like, I'm going to be so disappointed to see who took that job if I don't take it. And I was like, this has to be mine. Right. And I hesitated a lot. There was a lot of tears shed into this decision, but truly it was the best decision of my life. Like, it's going to sound super cool.
Mm. 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 Oh, is that Margot? This is me. How are you? Oh, that's funny. That's so funny. And I'm going to be really rude. I'm in the middle of a podcast and I answered because I lost my guest and she's back. So I need to call you back. But what time are you free today? What time? Okay, I want to call you about 4 o'clock. Okay. Okay. And I've got your cell phone number, so I can't wait to talk to you. I'm sorry I have to go. I'm so sorry. That's embarrassing. Okay. Okay. Bye. I thought that was you. That's the only reason I answered the phone. Sorry.
I don't know what happened there. My computer completely said restart. I'm like,
okay, well, that's good. If it's just the computer, that's great.
But I just that's pretty sad that it does that in the middle of a live podcast.
Well, it's okay. We're not live. In other words, we can piece this. I'm not worried about it, but we could also close everything and restart if you wanted to. I feel like it should be okay, but it's done it twice.
The first thing I had a pop-up that said your internet connection is unstable.
Okay.
And I said everything's okay, and then you disappeared when I clicked it. This was my computer, but restart, that's exactly what my computer just did. Is
okay.
Restart, so we should be good, but I'm very sorry about this. If you no.
No, because here's the thing. Because we're doing it this way, we just piece those two pieces together, not even a blip. And you know what else is it feels kind of appropriate that we would have this unusual bump in the podcast because we're talking about unusual experiences, right?
Yeah, it is. It's embarrassing because of all things to happen. This has never happened.
Well, exactly.
Meeting.
But the irony that you were actually a technology person, that's what I also think is really funny.
I know. Oh, that's horrible. Anyway,
all right. So
what I was saying, though, is that I believe the expression, I'm very French, and I'm sure it has picked up on the accent at this time a few hundred times through this, but I believe the expression is if you find a job you love, you won't work a day in your life, is where I was going. And I feel that. I truly feel that. I don't want to be, not working. I love working. I can honestly say when I was on my maternity leave, I was counting the days to going back. That's just not for me. But if I'm going to work, this is the best job. I actually enjoy coming to work. I love the company. I love what we do. Because that's the other thing is I don't just love the fact that I manage a product, but it grounds you quite a bit throughout the year when you see who we're doing this for. COVID happened. There was a huge impact to nonprofits. Fiona is a little hurricane here, but there's hurricanes in Florida that hits us. Ukraine, any big moment in the world or smallest little impact here with shelters. We touch on all of those too. So it's nice as I get to be professional. I get to be driven. I get to have these accomplishments professionally, but I also get to feel good that I'm doing it for nonprofits. So.
Do you have girlfriends or friends that you can talk about with this stuff? I'm curious. Yeah, me neither. That's why I do the podcast.
No. Well, most people don't really understand what I do for a living, first of all. But also the way my career has evolved and everything, like, no, it, it, it's something that people quite won't necessarily understand if you've gone through kind of a career that is unusual like this and a reassessment and be like, ultimately it's like I found what I'm supposed to be doing, which is what I'm doing now. Now, in hindsight, my friends from Quebec City who grew up with me are like, what? Like you manage a product and developers? And I was like, yeah. And it's like, aren't you an accountant, right? I was like, yeah, I know. And I said, it makes zero sense if you go from A to Z. But if I tell you what happened in my career, it will make sense.
And I think it's also really cool that you manage developers and yet you have zero coding experience. Can we just say that out loud?
Yeah, zero coding experience. But, I've, by no means, they're way smarter than me. They are way smarter. They know so many things that they can. Yeah. But I do find that I've been close enough to that field that I can talk the talk. And I like simplifying things and it will make sense. Now, believe me, 90% of the stuff that they do on a daily basis are way over my head. But I do think, again, that coding and development makes sense and it's logical in my head. And that's why I liked math. And that's why as long as we keep it logic, then it makes sense and we can talk the talk. There's always, in every company I worked, there was always one or two developers that, explain things very differently, and they would say, "Oh, Mary, you go talk to them. You'll make sense out of this one. We can't make sense, right?" So I won't say the names, but there's been a couple. It's like, "Oh yeah, you can talk that development talk. Go try to find out what he's trying to tell you." So I don't know. It just kind of it felt. But again, people that know me from years ago or know me in a personal setting for other reasons, they are a little shaken when I tell them what I do for a living, but I love every minute of it.
It's very clear that you love every minute. And I think for me, for whether it's Chavender, my company, or Underdog Leadership, if I think about the themes, it's about creating a space for women to have these kinds of conversations, Mary, because I'm in the same boat as you. I'd go up to the trailer and talk to my girlfriends about philanthropy and they're like, huh? Or business. Like, I don't think a lot of women, I think surrounding yourself with business women and women that are passionate about making change, of which business is one of the tools, whether you're corporate or you own your own. This is what making change looks like. And finding the people, finding your community is really important to me, like on a fundamental personal level. And I have different friends for different things. I should also say, funny story. This is true story, which I love the word that you use, logical. We used to do these sporty weekends with my girlfriends. We were all musicians, first of all, just to set up the stage, right? So really kind of goofy, geeky bunch of girls. And we went to Montreal and we were having this really intimate discussion and we had to use adjectives to describe ourselves. And so my first friend said, I'm, kind and da. And I went next. And Mary, I said, I'm logical. And the entire group of them burst into tears and laughed like crazy. And it was like, they couldn't stop themselves. Like they had the screaming memes that Jenny Mitchell would consider herself logical, because I am such a feeling being. I could do math, but it's to your point about what your strengths are, right? Like that's not my strength. Supply chain management is not my strength, but talking to the people on the supply chain, trying to figure out what their objections are or what's not working or building rapport, sign me up. That's why I'm a coach, not a supply chain management person, right?
Yeah, but I mean, there's logic in everything. I mean, that's going to sound really weird, but there's logic in feelings. Like,
is there?
Like,
is there?
Well, things make sense. I think they happen in a way.
Love it.
It makes sense, and I feel like that's how I talk to my daughter. Like, she's over here, and she's like, I'm anxious, and I don't know why. And I said, let's peel that back. We know why. There's a logic as to why you're feeling that way. Let's peel this back, and I try to make emotions back to facts and facts. Yeah.
Love it. Okay. So one of the hardest things to do is to provide direct feedback or challenges when you have a developer that's not performing up to par or whatever language you guys use. I think a lot of women really, I want to ask you because you seem really direct, and she's used the word logical many times. So I feel like she's going to give me a really logical answer to this. What's your approach for providing feedback to an underperforming employee? Tell me more.
It's sad, but it goes back to the predictive index. I can typically see if it underperforming is a different thing. It's like, are you too weak for that? But ultimately, I feel there's a job for everyone. It's like, let's understand your strength, and this assignment is for you. So if someone's not performing well, it may be because they absolutely hate the assignment I gave them to, or their style is not appropriate for this. Like, is this a multitask thing when you're more of a one-person thing? So I use the predictive index a lot to see, okay, first, have I assigned someone an assignment that is against their grain? Because if that's the case, then I failed as well to make you do something that is really against your grain. There's that.
The accountant rule. We're going to call that the accountant rule. Yes, got it.
Right? Like, it's just like, if I'm making you do something that is quick, and you're one that says, like, I need to research. Like, for example, our data scientists are very patient, thorough, detail, and everything. I know for a fact that if I said, hey, this is broken, I need this fixed in 2 days, I would unravel them, right? It's just, could they do it? Yeah, once or twice. Yeah. Anyone can go against the grain, but if you're assigned to something that goes against who you are, then that's the first thing is we talk about that. So I take that approach a lot. Or quite frankly, if it's someone that we have a really good rapport and we've been working together for a while and they're good performers, but they face planted on something, we're going to try to say, like, what the heck happened here? Like, did you, were you distracted? Did you not like, I can't promise anyone that every assignment they'll ever have, there's something that they're going to like, but if you're underperforming, you could be in the wrong role or wrong task. If it's a random non-performance, then it's just, let's just talk it like it is. Like, why did you mess up? Were you rushing this? Did you not like this? Do you think it's a stupid idea and that's why you rushed it through? Did you not have the support? COVID threw a big twist into this for us because developers are typically more independent workers, but they have to work with business analysts and other people that are typically more collaborators and stuff. Yeah. So the fact that we're no longer in an office together, we would have a situation where we know it would have worked more smoothly had people talked, but we didn't as a team push for people to talk. So maybe the development team went and did their own thing. So is it that person that failed? No, is that we failed as a team because we didn't force collaboration when it needed one and things. So I'm all about self-awareness.
Yes,
like when we've had to part ways with people that were not performing well, it was because they never once would have said, I know I suck at this, or I know I dropped the ball here. Right. And, I know I could do this better, but I'm good at this. Like, if we can have a frank, I'm good at this and I suck at this, you're going to be on my team for a very long time. Yeah. If you can't do that, then those conversations, we can't fix the situation, right? So those people are no longer here.
Yeah, radical responsibility, right? You model it very well as a leader. You talk about that directness and then expecting that of your teams and that sort of transparency. It's very refreshing, Mary. What's as we close out, people might want to connect with you on a couple of different fronts. I think we learn a lot from other women. Maybe they want to connect with you about the iWave product. Maybe they're looking for a job. I don't know. There's a lot of different things. But how can they connect with you? And maybe just a taste of where iWave is going next would be helpful.
Yeah. Well, how you can connect with me? Obviously, LinkedIn is a great way to connect with me. And my LinkedIn is tied to our iWave leadership page, so I can be found this way. emails. I'm very easy to find this way. I am on other social media platforms, but maybe we'll stick to LinkedIn for now. And you can find me on Instagram too if you want, but that's more for food and kids. But you're more than welcome to find me on there as well. What iWave is up to? Well, it's an interesting timing to be having this podcast because you said, Mary, I can see how excited you are about what you've accomplished and things. So iWave actually just transitioned to a new partnership with a new private equity firm. And through this process, everyone had said, Mary's very passionate about what she does. It's very obvious. So you're not the first person that points it out. But yeah, I am. I'm French. I talk with my hands. I'm very... so we're entering a new page. We had an incredible growth over the last 4 years, and now we're market leaders, and we want to take over. So, and what
does the partnership bring, like from a business perspective, besides like, is it expertise? Is it money? Is it research money? Like, tell us what that means.
I'd say this particular one is expertise. Like they've done this. They know the fundraising space, which is great. Not to have to educate about what we do. That's, I did not know anything about the fundraising space when I moved. I moved here to manage a product, right? And then learning what fundraising challenges are. You don't do this in a month or two. Right. So to have a partner that knows that space, knows what we're trying to do, knows the market, and has had a good track record of doing this with other companies, we're excited because now it's like, hey, help us out because we've done this not on our own, but we had a lot of growth in 4 years, but now it's like we need a coach here to see what else can we do, what else can we do? And it's very
I'm excited for you. I saw your announcement go through, and I think you're right. I think it's a really exciting time. If you are out there listening and are looking for a prospect research tool to help support data in your back ends, and what I mean by that is, say you have a bunch of annual supporters that are on your list, but you don't know much more about them or how they're giving to other organizations. As a consultant, the first thing I always say is know the people in your pond before you go finding another pond or other people. So this is what iWave does, is they do the research for you. They have some really cool indicators. They have a way of sort of doing an assessment, and they also do a really good job, just plug for them, on the Robert Smiths in your world. You know how many Robert Smiths there are in Canada and the US? And they have tools to help you narrow down which Robert Smith it is, so that you don't go pitch Robert Smith, the billionaire, with a Robert Smith, the thousandionaire, that's not a word, with a product. So, and they really do a great job of support and training and getting you access to the tools. It's a sophistication that the fundraising world, oh my God, please shoot me now if I have to do another event. I'd much rather spend the money on getting some sophisticated tools to support our prospect research. So definitely do check out iWave. Mary, thank you for your time. I'm pegging this one. I think we need a title called The Unusual Journey, or The Unusual Career Journey, I think, with Mary Cote. That feels good. What do you think?
I love it. That's me. That's definitely me.
Awesome.
Well, and listen, I'm still young. God knows where the journey is taking me next, right?
Who knows, right?
Yeah.
Actually, it only gets better, doesn't it? The clarity comes. I don't know, in this part of my life, I'm like, this is what I want to do. That's what I don't want to do. Like, It's a wonderful time, don't you think? Yeah. Oh, I get so inspired. I can't believe, pinch me now that I get to do this all day. Thank you, Mary Cote. Thank you to all of our listeners who have been so generous with their downloads. Just a plug, if you have time to make a 5-star review of this podcast, I would so appreciate it. What it does is it moves us through the IT algorithms so that we can reach more women and help more women with this message of empowerment. And today, Mary has showed us, just because you're a little different, just because you're a square peg, just because you're a little unusual, that is not career limiting. And case in point that Mary has had a wonderful, wonderful career and is still going, as she says. So thanks for being here, Mary.
Thank you so much.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye. Cool.
Is the clock still going?
No, we're good. We're off. The clock is still going. It says stopping. That's okay. We're done. Okay. Still going. It's weird.
I'm so sorry. I had
no worries. No worries at all. You have a great story. I really enjoyed that. You're lovely.
Well, thank you. I'm a little animated. I know.
Lovely. Well, I know, I mean, put a French Canadian and a bunch of East Coasters. That's got to be interesting, right?
I know. And it's funny because people, like, I moved to Halifax to learn English for university.
Yes, I remember that. Yeah.
And when I would travel a little bit, people would say, like, oh, you have the East Coast twang. And I was like, what's that? I don't know. Like, I just learned English in Halifax. I guess that makes me an East Coast twang, but I don't hear these nuances.
Yeah.
I hear them in French. I could pick out every little
Yeah.
region, right? But because it's not my mother tongue, I just don't pick it out. But yeah. So
That's
French
funny.
Canadian with the East Coast twang.
Well, I went to school in Montreal, so I love Montreal. I love Quebec. I spent some time in Quebec City. I mean, sign me up. Truthfully, I think Ontario is one of the most boring places in the whole world, but I have to live somewhere, right?
Yeah.
And then it's not, you can't compare Montreal to Ottawa. It's just,
I always say, like, Quebec City and parts of Montreal, it's like the little Europe of Canada. Like, people just, and I know people shy away from Quebec City because it's so French, and they're like, oh, I don't know French. And it's like, it's become more bilingual all the time anyway.
Totally.
But it's like, if you want a little taste of Europe and don't want to fly across the pond, like, go to Quebec City.
Yeah, totally.
I know. We have a condo now. We just don't visit enough. I only was there in March break. But I can't wait to go. 2 weeks for Christmas, hopefully.
Nice. Oh, enjoy. Yeah. It's wonderful. Well, listen, I'll let you go. Great to see you. And I'll be in touch about details and timing. And we're into January, so don't worry. It's not coming out anytime soon. But maybe you can coordinate with me to talk to your marketing team to get that all lined up too. So we can.
For sure. And if for some reason piecing it together doesn't work well and we have to do a redo, you let me know.
It's all good. We'll see what we got. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Ciao. Bye. Bye.
Where's my mouse?
I need to get my glasses. Here we go.